Hi, my name is Jonathan Black. Today one of the things I'd like to talk about is what I call the bucket model of stress. Bucket as in B-U-C-K-E-T. It's a very common model of stress that's used from a variety of coaches, with groups, with individuals, with wellness programs and counselling and team development sessions with regards to adapting to change and so on. And I don't know who developed it originally, but the reason I want to describe it to you today is that the experience I've had with this model is that when you describe it to people, they intuitively can place themselves in it. They intuitively can recognise what load they're carrying, what's in the bucket, what's outside of the bucket, and it generates a lot of conversations, and good models should do that basically. So the bucket model of stress, very simply, postulates that we all carry a bucket on our shoulder. Into this bucket we put all of our negative energy basically. Our disappointment, our frustration, our fatigue, our anger, our sadness, let down expectations, assumptions that didn't go right, and of course the level of fluid in that bucket goes up and down. And it goes up and down depending upon what we put in it. But to release the pressure, we need to have the wisdom to lean over and empty some of the fluid out of the bucket. And we do that by engaging in various interests and activities, hobbies, time with friends, time with family, basic stress management kind of principles. And I'll talk to you about the bucket survival guide, how to empty the bucket, in another video. Now, one wag once said to me many years ago, okay Jonathan, that's quite cute. I get the bucket, you put stuff in, you've got to lean over, empty stuff out, I get that. But how come, he said, I've got a mate, and my mate doesn't have a bucket on his shoulder, he's got a thimble. He loses his cool really quick. And my response to that workshop at the time, I ran that about 10 odd years ago, was that, okay, that sounds quite cute, but that's not really what happens. Sometimes for some of us, when our bucket gets very full, rather than empty our bucket, we simply get a bigger bucket. And when that bigger bucket gets full, rather than empty that bucket, we simply get a bigger bucket. It's what's called operationally having a chip on one's shoulder. And in my experience, those that are carrying the greatest load of the biggest buckets are the ones that usually crash and burn the worst, because they've lost the ability to reach out and ask for help, and their assumption is often if they reach out and ask for help, they're going to let people down or show vulnerability. And when you've adapted that way for years, that's very hard to overcome. The final thing I want to talk about the bucket is this. Yes, we've talked about the level of fluid in the bucket. It goes up, it goes down, depending on how we access our resources to empty the pressure that we're carrying. But one of the key principles of the bucket is that there's no point emptying the bucket when it's full. Then it's too late, because you've continuously got more stuff coming in. It's about emptying the bucket when you don't need to empty the bucket, to keep the level of fluid in that bucket, the load of stress that we're carrying, manageable. What that gives us is an energy reserve that allows us to take the big bricks that come into the bucket from a big height. They make a big splash, a big bang, but the level of fluid won't go over the edges. In other words, we will cope. The biggest determinant of post-event psychological functioning, be it a minor issue or a major issue in our lives, be it a natural disaster, getting fired from a job, a relationship challenge, a health challenge, and so on, is the level of pre-event functioning psychological functioning that we have. So if we want to be able to deal with the big stuff in our lives, we need to be able to deal with the small stuff effectively. And we need to give ourselves permission to empty that bucket on our shoulder on a regular basis, whether we think we need to or not. Thanks for listening.